The complete works of Swami Vivekananda, address by Swami Vivekananda at Calcutta, Part 1. One wants to lose the individual in the universal. One renounces, flies off, and tries to cut himself off from all associations of the body of the past. One works hard to forget even that he is a man. Yet, in the nears of his heart, there is a soft sound, one string vibrating. One whispers, which tell him, east or west, home is the best. Citizens of the capital of this empire, before I stand, not as a sannyasi, no, not even as a preacher, but I come before you as a sane Calcutta boy to talk to you as I used to. A. I would like to sit in the dust of the streets of this city and within the freedom of childhood open my mind to you, my brothers. Accept therefore my heartfelt thanks for this unique word that you have used, brother. Yes, I am your brother, and you are my brothers. I was asked by an English friend on the eve of my departure, Swamiji, how do you like now your motherland after 4 years' experience of the luxurious, glorious, powerful West? I could only answer, India I loved before I came away. Now the very dust of India has become holy to me. The very air is now to me holy. It is now the holy land, the place of pilgrimage, the Tirth Sthan. Citizens of Calcutta, my brothers, I cannot express my gratitude to you for the kindness that you have shown, or rather, I should not thank you at all, for you are my brothers. You have done only a brother's duty, only a Hindu brother's duty. For such family ties, such relationships, such love exists nowhere beyond the bounds of this motherland of ours. The Parliament of Religions was a great affair, no doubt. From various cities of this land, we have thanked the gentlemen who organized the meeting, and they deserved all our thanks for the kindness that they has been shown to us. But yet, allow me to construe for you the history of the Parliament of the Religions. They wanted a horse and they wanted to ride it. There were people there who wanted to make it a heathen show, but it was ordained otherwise. It could not help being so. Most of them were kind, but we have thanked them enough. On the other hand, my mission in America was not to the Parliament of Religions. That was only something by the way. It was only an opening, an opportunity, and for that we are very thankful to the members of the Parliament. But really, our thanks are due to the great people of the United States, the American nation, the warm-hearted, hospitable great nation of America, where more than anything else, the feeling of brotherhood has been developed. An American meets you for 5 minutes on board a train, and you are his friend, and the next moment he invites you as a guest to his home and opens the secret of his own living there. That is the character of the American race, and we highly appreciate it. Their kindness to me is a past all narrations, and it would take me years yet to tell you all how I have been treated by them most kindly and most wonderfully. So are our thanks due to the other nation on the other side of the Atlantic. No one ever landed on English soil with more hatred in his heart for a race than I did for the English. And on this platform are present English friends who can bear witness to the fact. But the more I lived among them and the more I saw how the machine was working, the English national life, and mixed with them, I found where the heartbeat of the nation was. And the more I loved them. There is none among you here present, my brothers, who loves the English people more than I do now. You have to see what is going on there, and you have to mix with them. As the philosophy, our national philosophy of the Vedanta has summarized all misfortune, all misery, as coming from that one cause, ignorance. Herein also we must understand that the difficulties that arise between us and the English people are mostly due to that ignorance. We do not know them, nor they know us. People more than I do now. You have to see what is. Unfortunately, to the Western mind, spirituality, nay, even mortality is eternally connected with the worldly prosperity. As soon as an Englishman or any other Western man lands on our soil and finds a land of poverty and of misery, he forthwith concludes that there cannot be any religion here. There cannot be any morality even. His own experience is true. In Europe, owing to the inclemency of the climate and many other circumstances, poverty and sin go together, but not so in India. In India, on the other hand, my experience is that the poorer the man, the better he is in point of morality. Now, this takes time to understand, and how many foreign people are there who will stop to understand this? The very secret of national existence in India. Few are there who will have the patience to study the nation and understand. Here and here alone is the only race where poverty does not mean crime, poverty does not mean sin. And here is the only race where not only poverty does not mean crime, but poverty has been defied, and the beggar's garb is the garb of the highest in the land. On the other hand, we have also similarly patiently to study the social institutions of the West and not to rush into mad judgments about them, their intermingling of the sexes, their different customs, their manners have all their meaning, have all their grand sides if you have the patience to study them. Not that I mean that we are going to borrow their manners and customs, not that they are going to borrow ours, for the manners and customs of each race are the outcome of centuries of patient growth in that race. And each one has a deep meaning behind it, and therefore neither are they to ridicule our manners and customs, nor we theirs.